I want to make one thing very clear right now. This video isn't about personal finance. I am not giving any advice in this particular video. I am discussing the economy as a whole. With that in mind, there was something that happened yesterday that I want people to think about. I work at a retail store, and there was this young woman and her friend. She walked in, she said a bunch of things about how she didn't like me, even though we've never met. She said never a bunch of times. Thanks for the warning, by the way. People like that, I don't want in my life at all. And then she left shouting starve. There are a number of reasons that isn't going to happen. I have leftover money from a college fund. This is a privilege I have. I acknowledge this, and I don't really think something like this should be a privilege. People should generally have the resources I do. That said, there are millions of people out there that don't. And on Reddit, someone did what I assume was hours, if not days, of research. And they noticed something about one stock, that the short interest was above 100%. Really high for a company, GameStop, where, it seemed to be in terminal decline. And in my opinion, it probably still is. But they took a good look. They went on Wall Street Bets. They told people about this. And they took advantage of the situation. Now, short squeezes are not a new thing. They happen a lot, and people win big, and then there are other people that lose even more because of the nature of how short selling works. The short squeeze happened to Tesla. It made Elon Musk the wealthiest man alive as of the filming of this video, and that Tesla stock, there's the reason that Tesla and not Fiat Chrysler is the third U.S. automaker now is because of this one short squeeze that happened over 5 years ago. I don't remember specifically when that happened, but because of a short squeeze, Tesla is a major automaker. Do I see GameStop doing that? It's possible. It is, but they would have to fundamentally change how that company works, and now they have the resources to do this. The Redditors that started this short squeeze, and a bunch of others, like COS, Bed Bath & Beyond, and AMC Theaters, a bunch of these companies that had heavy short interest, which is publicly available information. You can look this up, but again, don't take this as a call to action, but they invested in these companies, and then there are institutions and funds benefiting from this as well. But they started what is happening right now. And because of this, there are millionaires and billionaires who are crying. And this year, 2021, is really awesome so far. I wanted to talk about the 1/6 Capitol riots. I will get to that. I am actually making a script for it, and maybe I just want to make my thoughts on that really clear and, tell people how I really feel about that. But before that, this GameStop short squeeze it might have even more of an impact on US politics and policy. I wasn't foreseeing anything that would after the Capitol riots, but here we are. And good for Wall Street Bets and Reddit for taking advantage of the situation. And I know there are some really horribly pessimistic people out there that are saying things like, oh, well, now they're going to put more restrictions on retail investors. But that's going to be really difficult to do, especially now that Biden is president. I know people saw Joe Biden as the Wall Street guy, and he is to some extent. He is a moderate, but I don't think Joe Biden is stupid. So, where do we go from here? If you are in on this, which, disclosure, I am not, because of T+3, a restriction that is placed on retail investors, I guess keep holding on to it, know what a trailing stop is, and have one of those if you want to cash out. There are some other people that put a little bit of money into this, like one share, maybe a fraction of a share. They did that and are just holding on to this for as long as they can, hoping that these hedge funds are learning a valuable lesson. So we have, in a matter of a week or less, millionaires and billionaires that could potentially be millions, if not billions of dollars in debt. And now I know which brokerage firms are going to be on the hook. And I understand why TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab are putting these restrictions up, because when these hedge funds run out of money, so do TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab. But things like Robinhood, they're making a killing because of these Reddit folks speculating and giving the finger to this hedge fund shenanigans. And what these hedge funds were doing is illegal. Like there are some people saying some of this stuff should be illegal, but there are probably some illegal activities as well, given how heavily shorted GameStop is. There just has to be some naked short selling going on. And because of that, if anything, I expect the SEC and the Biden administration to look into the hedge funds before they even think about talking about retail investments. I could be wrong, but that does seem the most likely thing. Again, Biden is a moderate, but he is not stupid. If anything, Biden is probably looking at this and trying to think of words that will make his party happy. He's probably thinking about tying this to inequality. Whether or not something is actually done, well, something is being done by these Reddit speculators, and some of them are going to cash out, others won't. But in the end, this is an example of the stock market working in ways that rich people say it should, and yet rich people are getting screwed because of their own rules. Now, when it comes to inequality, I don't think having wealth is a bad thing in and of itself, but if you're not going to be humble about it, if you're not going to acknowledge the privileges you have, like I just did, that's not a good thing. And we have, I think, some millionaire and billionaire hedge fund speculators losing everything and more. And This is all, and these speculators probably inherited millions, if not billions, at birth. This is a really awesome year, seeing people who have never faced consequences suddenly facing consequences. And this is one example. There will be plenty more because simply because Biden is in the White House. And I've given my political thoughts on that. I mean, sure, there should be some more progressive policies. I don't think Biden is the way to do that. I don't know. The political situation in the U.S. is really complicated, which is why I have this YouTube channel. But just from the economy and just looking and seeing these poor Redditors suddenly make lots of money saying things like, I can pay off my student loans, I can get health care, I can get access to things that I should have had anyway. Here we are. And again, really heavy pessimism after something good happens is not something I like. I know there are going to be people pushing for bailouts for these poor hedge funds that do not contribute to the economy at all. But there are other funds that did make a lot of money from this GameStop short squeeze speculation. Here's what I think should happen. I think if there are more regulations, it should be against short selling in this manner, hoping that companies fail and doing that in a way that ensures their failure until someone on Reddit figures out how to stop it. I can see why some are pushing for short selling in general to be banned, and it was when the Great Recession was happening for a while. Maybe I haven't made a decision about that, but the retail investors should have some more resources, and because of Robinhood they do now, but they should have more legal backing to have more the same resources that institutional investors have. In the end, this is going to lead to a very big discussion about inequality. Don't just suddenly conclude that they're going to ban poor people from investing in the stock market. Not only is that an admission of guilt, it's not going to happen. It's not politically viable. That might be something Trump would entertain, but not a moderate Democrat like Joe Biden, as much as those guys tend to be friendly to Wall Street. They're not going to throw their lip service to everyone else in the trash. This is a very spectacular thing. I am not personally involved. GameStop still fails the will this company exist in 10 years rule that I have self-imposed. But this is awesome. It's fascinating to see this. I like how this has helped a lot of people who just were involved in the short selling. Okay, I will give one advice. Again, the trailing stop, have an exit strategy if you really do want to cash out. But otherwise, point made and point taken. Oh yeah, and this video is part of the Minnesota Perspective series, so I should say there might be some state governments looking to bail out the hedge funds doing this type of speculation, this short selling, and maybe even illegal naked short selling, but that has to pass through a state legislature. That's easy. A national legislature, the U.S. is not going to. And, there's going to be people being really mad if the idea of bailing out hedge funds that made a bad bet is entertained again. Minnesota has a long history of not giving corporate welfare, just deciding not to do that. Minnesota is one of the few states that has a corporate tax, and that applies to pretty much every company. The last time a form of corporate welfare was given out was for the US Bank Stadium, which the state very much has regulations on and controls despite not really getting anything out of it. But, the Minnesota Vikings is culturally and economically significant. Those are the two things you have to do in Minnesota to get any sort of bailout or funding from the state government in that kind of way. So, yeah, this is interesting. I think there are going to be some changes, but I would really like to warn against instant pessimism when something good happens, because that in and of itself prevents a discussion about how to fix things from being made. That is the Minnesota perspective on short squeezes, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.